Hey guys, it's your boy Progress, and welcome to a brand new video. Normally, I would say that if you wanted to follow me, that it would be on screen, but yeah, I had some issues with my last Twitter, and so I ended up making a new one. So if you want to go and follow that one, it is now the same as my Instagram, so that is @progress_YT if you want to go and follow either of those. But let's get into today's topic, that being Anthony Fantano, and yeah, it's not good. It unfortunately seems as though Anthony Fantano in recent times has been defending industry plants. The main person he has constantly defended being Billie Eilish, even though the evidence is mounting against her more and more. And now more recently, it seems like he has been trying to go against the whole concept of industry plants, saying that it doesn't matter, which is super disappointing, as I've actually watched Anthony Fantano for quite a long time now, and I mostly thought that he was pretty good at keeping things reasonable. But this in particular stood out to me the most for obvious reasons. For those of you who don't know who Anthony Fantano is, he's a YouTuber that predominantly does music reviews on his main channel called The Needle Drop, which has over 2 million subscribers, as well as doing mostly music commentary videos over on his second channel that is just called Fantano and has just under 1 million subscribers. So I would say that it is not too far off to claim that he is one of the most influential music critics slash music commentary channels in the entire world. But in today's video, I want to show you guys how, 1, he is downplaying just how bad industry planting is, 2, he has no idea what he's talking about when it comes to industry plants, and 3, he is a massive hypocrite. There will also be a bit of evidence showing Billie Eilish as being an industry plant sprinkled through this video as well, as I want to make sure that the points I'm making against Fantano come across in an understandable manner. Now, downplaying industry planting is something that Fantano has actually done quite a bit. To start off with this, I want to show you guys a clip from his video titled "Billie Eilish is an Industry Plant," as well as show you some tweets that he put out regarding industry plants. Right from the start of this though, I want you guys to know that Anthony Fantano said everything in his video about Billie Eilish, completely acknowledging that she is a plant, like he says in this clip.
So is Billie Eilish an industry plant if we were to go strictly by the kind of vague standards for what being an industry plant is? Yeah, pretty much.
So now that you guys have that in mind, let's get into it. In this video, where Fantano is supposedly trying to argue why industry plants are not that big of a deal, he decides to use this as one of his arguments.
I've said this before in videos, and I'll say it again in this one, but this whole industry plant term, this label, it is a recent term for something that has been an industry standard for a long time. Because for decades, record labels have been scouting talent, have been pairing musicians and bands up with songwriters and co-songwriters, have been handing them songs from other people, and have also had session musicians come in and play all the instruments on whatever record the band is putting out. From the world-class Look Them Up to 2019, that's pretty much been the standard.
This is what is known as an appeal to tradition fallacy, which is a logical fallacy where rather than proving why the thing that you are arguing for is or isn't bad, you instead say, well, it's been done this way forever, so it's okay. So by doing this, Fantano's reasoning is that since people have only just recently started using a term for something, even though it is an inherently predatory and bad thing to do, then oh, it's okay, who cares? Even when Fantano elaborates on why labels do what they do with industry plants, it's not even like he's hearing the words that are coming out of his own mouth to realize how messed up it is.
Yes, there are independent musicians out there. Yes, there are DIYers out there who are just totally doing their own thing, and you can't control them and you can't direct them. They're lone wolves. But listen, for the most part, it's not in the label's best interest to foster that kind of stuff. Because while it is great that labels do their best to, I guess, if an artist kind of blows up out of nowhere and they have an organic following and people really love their stuff, jump in there, try to sign them to the label, hand them a big fat contract. But here's the thing, if you have a giant following that you can basically take anywhere, the label is entering that conversation from a position of weakness. The label is most likely going to make more money off you if they can hand you a dinky contract before you're famous, before you're popular, and they can essentially control your ascent upward on the ladder of popularity and basically own you right from the start.
Right there, he just explained to himself why industry planting is so bad, and he doesn't even acknowledge it while he says it. Why should I, or anyone for that matter, as an artist, come into a label from anything less than a position of power? It is my art, it is my sound, my brand, my life, it is everything. So that little tangent that Fantano goes on that literally explains how predatory the music industry is, especially when it comes to signing artists who are 14 years old like Billie Eilish. But no, to him, it's just okay, which to me says a lot about his character. Now I want to get into showing you guys the post that Fantano made about industry plants because, wow, they are horrible. Of course, once again, these are regarding Billie Eilish, as it was around the time that she won 5 Grammys or whatever, but I have a feeling that this can be applied to any industry plant, as he has not specified that industry planting is bad in any way. It started off with him saying, quote, "Imagine if you got a part-time job at Taco Bell because your homie manages there or something, and your first day at work, every other employee there starts chanting, 'Industry plant, industry plant, industry plant,' end quote." Now you may be wondering, did Fantano just attempt to compare getting a part-time job at Taco Bell because you know the manager to being 14 and signing to Interscope, one of the largest record labels on the planet, because her brother got her a deal with an A&R company that manufactures an image for artists, and her publicist who got her a Chanel fashion stylist to also shape how she looked so she was able to be signed to large labels for millions of dollars? And the answer to that is yes. He genuinely believes that those two things are even remotely comparable. Which, as I pointed out to him on Twitter, this is a false equivalence fallacy, which essentially is when somebody decides to take a single shared trait between two things and tries to make them seem as if they are equivalent, which obviously just doesn't work. But of course, Fantano could not accept that he was just wrong, and instead, when someone else in his replies tried to call him out for the same thing basically that I have said, he tried saying that the two things were comparable. And guess what he said? Guess. I bet you couldn't. I bet you could not try and guess even if you tried to make a joke out of it. He tried saying they were comparable because someone can climb the corporate ladder. Yeah. This is what we're dealing with. Like, it feels like it's not even worth arguing with this man because it just makes me dumber by the second reading the things he says. Also, just to make sure that I don't miss anything here, yes, this is also a false equivalence fallacy. Because how is being handed everything to you at such a young age and securing your history as a pop icon with millions of dollars, mind you, almost instantaneously over the last few years, even remotely close to having to work your way to the top over the span of a probably 20 or more year period with a company just to get into an executive position that probably won't even pay you the same amount of money yearly that Billie Eilish makes. How is that the same? It also makes it worse, especially with Billie Eilish being signed to an A&R company that is now owned by Apple. It creates an uneven playing field for other artists on the Apple Music platform in terms of promotion, because there will always be a conflict of interest due to Apple obviously wanting to make the most money out of Billie that is possible, which would probably explain if you ever see tons of ads of Billie Eilish on Apple Music. Well, there you go. Now you know why. Taco Bell also does not control every aspect of the person's life who they employ, whereas I can't say the same for labels with industry plants. So no, once again, I will reiterate that these things are not the same. Now, I also want to get into a bit of the hypocrisy that I see with Anthony Fantano in this situation, because to me, it's interesting how his views on certain subjects are a certain way, and his views on other subjects are a completely different way. And I will explain what I mean by that. Some of the things I'm going to be talking about in this section were actually brought to me by a smaller YouTuber named Shadow Ninja, so thank you so much to him for showing me these, because it'll help quite a bit, as you'll see. For those of you who don't know, Fantano has actually gotten himself in a bit of heat before for some of the reviews that he's done on his channel that are still up to this day of acts like Burzum, who is an arsonist who burnt a church down, murdered someone, and also allegedly started a neo-Nazi cult. And back when he reviewed one of Burzum's albums years ago, this is what he said about it.
Burzum is just a guy, he's just a musician, and he's just as capable of making a mediocre album as anybody else is. Now, I don't give a shit if he burned down some churches, I don't care if he murdered a guy, I really don't care if he's racist. If he comes out with an album in the future that I find interesting, I will welcome it with open arms. But until then, right now, this thing is kind of boring me.
I also want to make it crystal clear that Fantano is clearly not saying that he agrees with or condones any of the things that Burzum has done. He is just simply saying he's only there for the music, which I also don't agree with at all, but we'll get into that. He also followed up later on with another review on a new Burzum album, and then said this when referencing how he noticed some white nationalist related lines.
So if you're racist, at least be open about it. Then I can say, hey, you know, that guy's racist, that's what he believes, I'll just leave him over there and avoid him. So now I kind of have this hot potato in my hands that I don't really want to deal with, and though I do like this album, it's not like I like it so much I could just ignore this fact. You may call it closed-minded, but I don't deal with Glenn Beck's BS. Why would I deal with Varg's? So don't be surprised if, in the future, I'm a little more hesitant to review anything this guy does.
I do, though, think that it is a bit morally questionable how he decided to phrase some of that, especially with him trying to say that, oh, the album wasn't good enough for him to ignore some of those lines, as if somehow a great album or even a good enough album would be absolving it of its insanely racist and horrible lines. He also then ended up making a community post at some point talking about how he was going to try and refrain from actually reviewing any of these bands or artists that have any of these bad ties to them, which is an understandable position. But now it feels like we're back at square one again with this whole industry plant stuff, because in his video talking about Billie Eilish, he said this.
Some of the most popular and beloved music out there is really more top-down than it is ground up. But honestly, at the end of the day, really what's going to matter to me is whether or not Billie Eilish's new record is good.
So he is back to saying that all that matters to him is the music and nothing else, which now we know is not true, because he has supposedly set a standard in certain areas for types of artists that he will not promote, but then apparently in others there's just not that precedent. In one way it feels confusing, but then at the same time not. Because although Fantano tries to make it seem as if he doesn't care about anything to do with the artist, he's just there for the music, we know for a fact that that is not true, not just because of what I just talked about, but also because just recently he did an interview with Phineas, which, if you don't know who that is, it is actually Billie Eilish's brother, who is also her main producer and one of the main reasons she got noticed in the first place. And in that interview, Fantano ended up saying this.
So yeah, man, I mean, look, I love what you and Billie are doing. I wanted to ask some questions about that and, you know, just kind of get some more insight and info onto that, because I appreciate and I admire the fact that you guys don't try to feed into the limelight too much, that is so desperately like trying to pry every, you know, bit of privacy that you have left away from you.
So we now know almost 100% Fantano is a fan of Billie Eilish through and through, using his connections to be able to access information that goes further than just simply wanting to listen to the artist's music. So for Fantano to try and say that he's only in it for the music is just not true, because one, we know that he in the past has had other standards against not reviewing certain artists' music for good reasons, and two, because he clearly wants to have a more than musical connection with certain artists that he likes and reviews, like Billie Eilish. So that just goes to show that that argument makes no sense anymore. Now, I want to make it also very clear, though, that I am not trying to claim that what Burzum is and what Billie Eilish is are anything close to the same, but I'm using this to emphasize that Anthony Fantano cannot claim that he does not care about the artist's personal lives when clearly he does. Honestly, after showing you guys all of this stuff, I feel like it genuinely would have been easier for Fantano to just say that he doesn't care about the predatory and, you know, weird natures of industry plants at all, and that he's just in it for the entertainment, doesn't matter who it's at the cost of, and that he doesn't care that it's the corporate manufacturing of an entire art form, because then at least he would be giving a real reason for what he is doing so people could see what he truly is trying to say, rather than trying to dance around and hide behind these non-arguments that do absolutely nothing. But you know what, Fantano? Let me let you in on a little secret, okay? If you have to try that insanely hard to justify your questionable actions, maybe you're not on the right side. But hey, maybe that's just me thinking that. But that pretty much does it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, absolutely be sure to let me know in the comments, or if you guys have another video you'd like to suggest me to possibly do in the future, then also let me know that as well. Thank you so much as well to my amazing patrons, every single one of you. It helps me so much to be able to make these videos, so thank you guys. And I'd also like to give a special thank you to my $10 and up patrons this month, those being Farski, Midwest Funky, and Helen. It means the absolute world to me that you guys donate what you do, because it just helps me out so much on the channel to be able to do this stuff for you guys. So thank you so much. But yeah, that's all. So thank you guys so much once again for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.
Baby, I can't remember anything without you. I swear I wake up every day like, what did I do to deserve you? I never hurt you, cause you're my earth, but my purpose to serve you. Please don't run away, never go away. I just wanna see your face every single day.